The morning sun pierced through the smog of downtown Manhattan like a reluctant dagger, casting long shadows on the bustling streets. Lila Evergreen pedaled furiously on her ancient bicycle, the kind with rusted chains and a basket that rattled like a maraca. At 25, she was a whirlwind of untamed auburn curls, paint-splattered jeans, and dreams bigger than her tiny studio apartment. Today was supposed to be her big break, a job interview at a quirky art gallery that promised exposure for her surrealist paintings. But fate, that capricious joker, had other plans. "Move it, lady!" a cab driver barked as she swerved around a pothole. Lila muttered an apology under her breath, her heart pounding in rhythm with her pedaling. The brakes on her bike had been acting up for weeks, but who had money for repairs? Not her, scraping by on freelance gigs and instant ramen. Up ahead, the light turned red, but her brakes, oh God, they weren't responding. Panic surged through her veins like ice water. She yanked the handlebars, trying to veer onto the sidewalk, but it was too late. With a sickening screech of metal on metal, her bike collided head-on with the glossy black bumper of a supercar, a Lamborghini Aventador, sleek and predatory, worth more than her entire life savings. The impact flung her forward, her portfolio scattering like confetti across the asphalt. She landed in a heap, knees scraped, elbow throbbing, but miraculously unbroken. Horns blared, pedestrians gawked, and Lila's world spun in a haze of embarrassment and dread. A pair of polished leather shoes appeared in her blurred vision. She looked up, and there he was, Julian Blackwood, the infamous tech billionaire whose face graced every Forbes cover. Tall, with chiseled features that could cut glass, piercing blue eyes, and a suit that screamed power. His expression was a mask of controlled fury. "What the hell were you thinking?" he growled, his voice low and commanding, like thunder rolling in from the sea. Lila scrambled to her feet, brushing dirt from her jeans. "I am so sorry. My brakes failed. It was an accident, I swear. Please don't call the cops. I'll pay for the damages somehow." Julian's gaze flicked to the dent on his car's hood, then to her scattered sketches fluttering in the breeze. One caught his eye, a vibrant painting of a city skyline melting into abstract chaos. He bent down, picking it up with surprising gentleness. "You're an artist?" he asked, his tone shifting from anger to intrigue. She nodded, cheeks flushing. "Yeah, struggling one. That was on my way to an interview." He studied the piece for a moment longer, then met her eyes. "Interesting. Chaotic, yet structured. Tell you what, forget the police. But you'll work off the debt. As my assistant. Starting tomorrow." Lila blinked, stunned. "Your assistant? But I don't know anything about tech or business." A faint smirk tugged at his lips. "You'll learn. Or pay up another way. Deal?" With no other options, she extended her hand. "Deal." As he drove off, leaving her to gather her things, Lila wondered if she'd just traded one disaster for another. Little did she know, this crash was the spark that would ignite her entire world. The elevator to Julian Blackwood's penthouse office felt like ascending to Mount Olympus, or perhaps descending into Hades. Lila clutched her notepad, her heart hammering as the doors slid open to reveal a sprawling empire of glass walls, minimalist furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city. The air smelled of fresh coffee and unspoken expectations. "Miss Evergreen," Julian's voice boomed from his desk, not bothering to look up from his triple-monitor setup. "You're late by 2 minutes. Punctuality is non-negotiable." She glanced at her watch. 8:02 a.m. "Sorry, Mr. Blackwood. Traffic was. Excuses are for the weak. Your desk is over there. Schedule my meetings, handle my calls, and for God's sake, organize that pile of contracts. I expect perfection." The day blurred into a nightmare. Julian barked orders like a drill sergeant. "Rewrite this email, it's too verbose. Fetch my dry cleaning now. Why is my coffee lukewarm? Remake it." By noon, Lila's feet ached, her pride bruised. But amidst the chaos, she glimpsed his genius, deals closed with razor-sharp precision, innovations sketched on napkins. Then came the knock. A woman swept in like a storm. Serafina Voss, Julian's fiancée, as reported by every tabloid. Tall, blonde, with emerald eyes and a designer dress that hugged her curves like a second skin. She eyed Lila with the disdain of a queen spotting a peasant. Julian, darling, Serafina purred, leaning over his desk to kiss his cheek. He stiffened slightly, but allowed it. Who's this girl? Lila Evergreen, my new assistant, he replied flatly. She's handling the damages from yesterday's incident. Serafina's laugh was like shattering crystal. Oh, the bike crasher? How quaint. Just make sure she doesn't touch anything important. We wouldn't want accidents in the office, would we? Lila forced a smile. I'll do my best, Miss Voss. Serafina's eyes narrowed. It's Serafina to you. And remember your place, assistants come and go. As she sashayed out, Julian sighed. Ignore her. Focus on the work. But Lila couldn't. Serafina's hostility lingered like perfume, thick and cloying. That evening, as Lila tidied his desk, she overheard a phone call. Julian's voice, usually steel, softened with strain. Father, the deal with Voss is crucial. Serafina, she's part of it. But it's not real. He paused. No one knows. Especially not her. Lila froze, heart racing. A fake engagement. What had she stumbled into? The next week was a battlefield. Lila arrived early, armed with coffee, piping hot, and determination. Julian's demands hadn't eased, but she'd adapted, organizing his calendar with color-coded efficiency, even anticipating his moods. Good work on the merger report, he grunted one afternoon, a rare compliment that warmed her like sunlight. But Serafina. She was a venomous shadow. It started subtly, files mysteriously rearranged, leading to Julian's frustration. Lila, where's the Voss contract? He'd snap. I swear I left it here, she'd protest, only to find it buried under junk mail, courtesy of a sly blonde visitor. Then came the presentation sabotage. Julian needed slides for an investor pitch. Lila slaved over them, infusing her artistic flair with clean graphics. But when she emailed the final version, the file corrupted, images pixelated, text jumbled. Lila! Julian roared from his office. She rushed in, finding him glaring at his screen. I don't know what happened, she stammered. Serafina lounged on the couch, smirking. Perhaps she's not cut out for this, Julian. I could help. I'm great with presentations. Julian's jaw tightened. Lila, fix it. Now. Humiliated, Lila redid the work overnight. The next day, fueled by coffee and fury, she confronted him in the break room. Mr. Blackwood, we need to talk. About Serafina. He raised an eyebrow. What about her? She's sabotaging me. The files, the presentation, it's her. Why do you let her treat me like dirt? Julian set down his mug, his blue eyes locking onto hers. Serafina's complicated. Jealous, perhaps. But I trust you to handle it. You're resourceful. Prove it. Jealous. Of what? Lila's mind whirled. But why? I'm just your assistant. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Exactly. And yet, you're indispensable already. Flattered but confused, Lila nodded. As she left, Serafina blocked her path in the hallway. Stay away from him, little artist. He's mine. Lila straightened. I'm here to work, not steal. But if you keep this up, I'll fight back. Serafina's laugh echoed. Oh, honey. The war's already started, and you're outmatched. Lila's blood boiled. This wasn't just a job anymore, it was personal. Thunder rumbled outside the floor-to-ceiling windows as Lila worked late, the office a cocoon of dim lights and humming servers. Julian paced his office, negotiating a high-stakes call. When it ended, he emerged, loosening his tie, a bottle of scotch in hand. Join me, he asked, surprising her. You've earned it after fixing that mess. Hesitant, Lila followed him to the lounge area. He poured 2 glasses, the amber liquid glowing under the lamps. As they sipped, the alcohol loosened his tongue. You know, Lila, you're not like the others, he said, staring at the city lights. Most assistants quit after a week. But you fight back. She chuckled nervously. Maybe I'm just stubborn. He leaned back, eyes distant. Serafina and I. It's not what it seems. His words slurred slightly. The engagement. Fake. All for a deal with her father. His company's merger could skyrocket mine. But Serafina, she's in it for the power. Hates that I respect you more than her. Lila's glass paused mid-air. Respect? Me? But why the hostility? Julian sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. She's insecure. Sees you as a threat because you're real. Kind, creative, not like the sharks in my world. He met her gaze, intense. And honestly, working with you, it's refreshing. Stunned, Lila set her glass down. Mr. Blackwood, Julian, I had no idea. He waved it off. Keep it secret. The deal's almost done. After that. His voice trailed off, heavy with unspoken possibilities. As he dozed off on the couch, Lila covered him with a blanket, her mind reeling. A fake engagement. Respect turning into something more. She slipped out, the rain mirroring her turbulent thoughts. What if this respect was the start of something dangerous? Days blurred into a delicate dance of secrets and stolen glances. Lila now navigated Julian's world with insider knowledge, her efficiency laced with empathy. She noticed the cracks in his armor, the late nights alone, the untouched dinners. One afternoon, while reorganizing his private study, a rare privilege, she stumbled upon a locked drawer. Curiosity won. She jimmied it open with a paperclip. Inside, a velvet box filled with faded photos. A woman with auburn curls, laughing in a sunlit studio, paintbrush in hand. She looked eerily like Lila. Heart-pounding, she flipped through them, Julian as a boy, hugging her tightly. "What are you doing?" Julian's voice sliced through the air. He stood in the doorway, face thunderous. Lila jumped, photos scattering. "I am sorry. I was just—" He strode forward, but instead of rage, his shoulders slumped. He picked up a photo, tracing the woman's face. "My mother. Elena. She was an artist like you. Died when I was 10. Cancer." Lila's breath caught. "She looks like me." Julian nodded, sitting on the edge of the desk. "That's why I hired you. Your portfolio, it reminded me of her work. Chaotic beauty. And your kindness. It's like having a piece of her back." His voice cracked. "I've been alone since. Building an empire, but empty inside. Until you crashed in." Tears pricked Lila's eyes. "Julian, I had no idea. I'm honored, but I'm not her." He looked up, eyes vulnerable. "I know. You're you. And that's what steals my heart a little more each day." The air thickened with unspoken tension. Lila reached out, squeezing his hand. "Then let me be your ally. Not just assistant." He squeezed back, a rare smile breaking through. "Deal." As she left the study, a warmth bloomed in her chest. But shadows lingered, Serafina's war, the fake engagement. What if this bond shattered everything? The chandeliers of the Grand Metropolitan Ballroom glittered like a constellation trapped in crystal, casting a golden glow over Manhattan's elite. Lila stood at the edge of the chaos, her emerald gown, a gift from Julian, hugging her frame like a second skin. The dress, chosen by him, felt like both a shield and a spotlight. She wasn't just an assistant tonight, she was Julian Blackwood's shadow, tasked with upholding the facade of his fake engagement to Serafina Voss. "Smile, Lila," Julian murmured, his hand brushing her lower back as he guided her through the crowd. His touch sent a jolt through her, and she fought to keep her expression neutral. "You're doing me a favor. This deal with Voss hinges on appearances." "I'm trying," she whispered back, her voice nearly drowned by the clink of champagne flutes and laughter. "But Serafina's been glaring at me since we walked in." Sure enough, across the room, Serafina stood in a crimson gown that screamed dominance, her emerald eyes locked on Lila like a predator sizing up prey. Her arm was looped through her father's, a silver-haired tycoon whose merger with Julian's company was the night's unspoken agenda. But Serafina's smile was a blade, sharp and deliberate. "Julian, darling," Serafina called, sauntering over. "You didn't tell me your assistant would be playing dress-up tonight." Her tone dripped venom, and the nearby guests turned, sensing drama. Julian's jaw tightened, but his voice remained smooth. "Lila's here to ensure everything runs perfectly. You know how I value competence." Serafina's laugh was a brittle thing. Competence. Oh, how quaint. Just don't let her trip over that dress and ruin our evening. Lila's cheeks burned, but she held her ground. I'll manage, Serafina. I'm good at keeping things together. The socialite's eyes narrowed, but before she could retort, Julian steered Lila toward a quiet alcove. The music faded, leaving only the hum of their shared tension. He leaned against the wall, loosening his tie, his blue eyes searching hers. "You're handling her better than I expected," he said softly. "Thank you. This night, it's a lot." Lila's heart thudded. "I'm just doing my job, Julian. But why does she hate me so much? It's more than jealousy." He hesitated, then stepped closer, his voice low. "You're not just an assistant, Lila. You're different. You see me. Not the billionaire, not the empire. Just me." The air between them crackled. Before she could respond, he closed the gap, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that was all fire and desperation. It was raw, unguarded, a collision of pent-up longing. Lila melted into it, her hands gripping his lapels, until he pulled back, breathless, his forehead against hers. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I shouldn't have." "Don't," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't apologize." But the moment shattered as Serafina's voice cut through. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Lila spun, heart sinking. Serafina stood there, a glass of champagne in hand, her smile venomous. "Careful, assistant. You're playing with fire." As she stormed off, Lila's mind raced. That kiss had changed everything, and Serafina had seen it all. The morning after the gala, Lila's head pounded, not from champagne, but from the weight of that kiss. She arrived at the office early, expecting Julian's usual icy demeanor. Instead, she found a sleek envelope on her desk, her name scrawled in his sharp handwriting. Inside was a new contract, no mention of car damages, a doubled salary, and a vague clause about expanded responsibilities. Her old debt was gone. She stormed into his office, contract in hand. "What is this, Julian?" He leaned back in his chair, looking infuriatingly calm. "Your new contract. The old one's void. You're not here to pay off a dent anymore." Lila's eyes narrowed. "Why? Because of last night. That kiss wasn't part of any deal." His expression softened, a rare vulnerability flickering. "No, it wasn't. But it made me realize something. I need you, Lila. Not just for schedules or coffee runs. You're essential." She crossed her arms, torn between flattery and suspicion. "Essential how? You said yourself this engagement thing is fake. What's your game?" He stood, rounding the desk to stand closer. "No game. The deal with Voss is nearly done. After that, I'm free. And I want you by my side, not as an assistant, but as—" He stopped, searching for words. "As you." Her breath caught. "Julian, I'm not some prize to be won. I'm here because I crashed into your car, not because I planned to crash into your life." He chuckled, a low, warm sound. "And yet, here you are. Just sign it. Stay." Against her better judgment, she did. But as she left his office, a chill ran through her. Serafina's threat lingered like a storm cloud. If Julian was letting her in, what would Serafina do to keep her out? Lila's days became a tightrope walk, balancing Julian's growing warmth with Serafina's escalating sabotage. One rainy afternoon, tasked with digitizing old files in the storage room, she stumbled upon a dusty USB drive labeled Security Archives. Curiosity, her old nemesis, won out. She plugged it into her laptop, heart pounding as grainy footage loaded. The video showed the alley behind her apartment, time-stamped hours before her bike crash. A man in a dark jacket tampered with her brakes, his movements deliberate. Lila's stomach churned. She zoomed in, catching a glimpse of his face, a former security guard Julian had fired, according to office gossip. Another clip showed him speaking to someone off-screen, but the audio was garbled. "Who were you working for?" she muttered, replaying the footage. Then, a damning clue, an email on her work computer, accidentally left open by a careless intern. It was between the guard and Serafina, discussing the plan to disrupt Blackwood's focus. The crash wasn't an accident, It was orchestrated. Lila's hands shook. Serafina had engineered her entry into Julian's life. But why? To humiliate her? To control him? She needed answers, but confronting Serafina alone felt like walking into a lion's den. She caught Julian in the hallway, his coat damp from the rain. "We need to talk. Now." He frowned, sensing her urgency. "What's wrong?" "Not here," she whispered, pulling him into a conference room. She showed him the footage, her voice steady despite her fear. "My crash was planned. By Serafina." Julian's face darkened, his fists clenching. "If this is true, she's gone too far." "She's been playing you," Lila said. "This isn't just jealousy. It's something bigger." He nodded, his eyes blazing. "We'll get to the bottom of it. Together." Lila became a detective in her own life, piecing together the puzzle. She hacked into the office's old email archives, a skill learned from a shady college roommate, and found more correspondence between Serafina and the guard. One email chilled her: "Make sure the assistant stays close. She's the perfect pawn to break him." Break him. Lila's mind raced. She spent sleepless nights cross-referencing dates, deals, and Serafina's visits. The pattern emerged. Serafina's father's merger was a Trojan horse. If Julian signed, it would give Voss control over key patents, potentially bankrupting Blackwood Tech. She met Julian at a discreet diner, far from prying eyes. Rain streaked the windows as she laid out her findings. "Serafina's using the fake engagement to lock you into a bad deal. The crash was to plant me here, someone she could manipulate to distract you." Julian's face was a storm of betrayal and admiration. "You're brilliant, Lila. I should have seen it. Her father's been too eager, too accommodating." "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned forward, his hand brushing hers. "We play her game, until we can turn it against her. But you're in danger now. Stay close to me." Lila nodded, her pulse racing, not just from fear, but from the intensity in his eyes. "I'm not going anywhere." As they left the diner, a shadow lingered across the street, a man in a dark jacket, watching. Lila's heart sank. The conspiracy was unraveling, but the danger was just beginning. Lila couldn't wait any longer. Armed with a USB of evidence, she marched into Serafina's sleek office at Voss Enterprises, her heart pounding like a war drum. Serafina lounged behind a glass desk, her smile as cold as the marble floor. "Well, well," Serafina drawled. "The little artist thinks she's a detective. What do you want?" Lila slapped the USB down. "The truth. You rigged my crash. You're using the engagement to ruin Julian. I have proof." Serafina's eyes flickered, but her composure held. She leaned forward, her voice a hiss. "You think you're clever? Yes, I planned the crash. I needed someone insignificant to keep Julian distracted while I worked on his downfall. But you," she laughed, a cruel sound. "You're more trouble than you're worth." Lila's blood ran cold. "Why? What's your endgame?" Serafina stood, towering over her. "Power. Julian's company is a goldmine, but he's too stubborn to share it. The merger was step 1. Step 2. Frame him for embezzlement, force him out, and let me and my father take over. You were supposed to be a pawn, not a problem." Lila's voice shook but held firm. "He'll never believe you over me." Serafina smirked. "Oh, honey, he's believed me for years. You're just the help." Lila turned to leave, but Serafina grabbed her arm. "Give me that USB, or you'll regret it." Lila yanked free, sprinting for the door. "You'll have to catch me first." She fled into the night, heart racing, knowing Serafina wouldn't stop. The game was up, but the war was far from over. The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan glistened under the neon glow, a labyrinth of light and shadow as Lila sprinted through the night, the USB drive burning a hole in her pocket. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her sneakers pounding against the pavement. Serafina's parting threat echoed in her mind, "You'll regret this." Lila had no intention of finding out what that meant, not without a fight. Behind her, the screech of tires cut through the city's hum. She glanced over her shoulder, heart lurching as a black SUV peeled around the corner, its headlights slicing through the downpour. Serafina wasn't playing games anymore. Lila ducked into an alley, her pulse hammering as she fumbled for her phone. She dialed Julian, praying he'd pick up. "Lila!" His voice was sharp, alert despite the late hour. "Where are you?" "Running," she panted, weaving past overflowing dumpsters. "Serafina," she admitted everything. "The crash, the merger, framing you for embezzlement. I've got proof, but she's after me." A low curse crackled through the line. "Stay on the move. I'm tracking your phone. Get to the pier near Battery Park." "I'm coming." The alley opened onto a busy street, and Lila merged into the crowd, her auburn curls tucked under her hood. But the SUV reappeared, slowing as a man, the same one from the security footage, leaned out, scanning the faces. Lila's stomach twisted. She darted across traffic, horns blaring, and slipped into a subway entrance. Her hands shook as she swiped her Metro card, blending into the late-night commuters. On the platform, she caught her breath, clutching the USB like a lifeline. A shadow loomed behind her, and she spun, expecting Serafina's hired muscle. Instead, it was a homeless man, offering a toothless grin. "You look lost, miss." "Just catching a train," she lied, forcing a smile. The rumble of an approaching subway drowned out her fear, but as she boarded, she saw him, the guard, pushing through the crowd. She ducked into a packed car, heart pounding, and called Julian again. "I'm on the subway, heading downtown," she whispered. "He's following me." "Stay calm," Julian said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "Get off at Whitehall." "I'm almost there." The train lurched, and Lila gripped the pole, her mind racing. She'd gone from assistant to fugitive in hours, and the weight of Serafina's conspiracy pressed against her chest. As the train slowed, she slipped out, sprinting up the stairs into the stormy night. The pier was close. She could see its lights through the rain. But footsteps echoed behind her, heavy and relentless. "Lila!" Julian's voice cut through the chaos. She turned, spotting his familiar silhouette under a street lamp, his Lamborghini idling nearby. She ran to him, collapsing against his chest as he pulled her close, shielding her from the rain and the world. "You're safe," he murmured, his arms tight around her. "I've got you." But as they sped away, Lila knew safety was an illusion. Serafina was still out there, and the USB in her pocket held the key to everything. Julian's penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel, but tonight it felt like a sanctuary. Lila sat on his leather couch, wrapped in a blanket, her wet clothes discarded for one of his oversized shirts. The USB lay on the coffee table, a small device holding a massive truth. Julian paced, his phone pressed to his ear, barking orders to his legal team. "They're analyzing the footage now," he said, hanging up. He sat beside her, his blue eyes stormy with fury and relief. "You could have been killed, Lila. Why didn't you come to me first?" She met his gaze, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "Because Serafina said you'd never believe me over her. I had to confront her myself." He ran a hand through his damp hair, frustration etched into his features. "She underestimated you. And me. I should have seen her game sooner." Lila reached for his hand, her fingers brushing his. "You couldn't have known. She played us both. But we've got the evidence now, her emails, the footage. It's enough to stop her." He squeezed her hand, his touch grounding her. "You're incredible, you know that? Most people would have run. You fought." A shy smile tugged at her lips. "I'm stubborn, remember?" He chuckled, but it faded as he leaned closer, his voice low. "You're more than that. You're the only one who's ever seen through my walls. And tonight, you saved me." Her breath hitched, the air between them charged. He cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheek. "I don't know what I'd do if I lost you." Before she could respond, he kissed her, not the desperate heat of the gala, but a slow, tender promise. When they parted, she whispered, "You won't lose me." But as they sat there, the USB glowing under the lamplight, Lila knew the fight wasn't over. Serafina's empire was crumbling, but she'd strike back, hard. The boardroom of Blackwood Tech was a cathedral of power, its mahogany table reflecting the tense faces of the company's elite. Lila stood at Julian's side, clutching a tablet loaded with their evidence. Across the room, Serafina sat beside her father, Reginald Voss, her crimson lipstick a stark contrast to her pale, composed face. But her eyes betrayed her, a flicker of fear as Julian took the floor. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julian began, his voice commanding the room. "Today, we address a betrayal that threatens not just my company, but our integrity." Murmurs rippled through the board. Reginald frowned, adjusting his glasses. "What's this about, Blackwood?" Julian nodded to Lila, who connected the tablet to the projector. The grainy security footage played, showing the guard tampering with her bike. Gasps echoed as emails flashed on the screen, Serafina's instructions to disrupt Blackwood and use the assistant. The final blow, her recorded confession, captured by Lila's phone during their confrontation. Serafina stood, her voice shrill. "This is a fabrication. Julian, how dare you let your assistant slander me?" Lila stepped forward, her voice clear. "It's not slander, Serafina. You admitted it yourself. You rigged my crash to manipulate Julian, to push a merger that would ruin him." Reginald's face darkened. "Serafina, is this true?" She faltered, her composure cracking. "Father, Enough!" he roared, standing. "You've disgraced our name. This merger is off." He turned to Julian, his voice heavy. "I had no knowledge of this. You have my apologies." Serafina's eyes blazed with rage, but the room turned against her. Shareholders whispered, security moved in. As she was escorted out, she shot Lila a venomous glare. "This isn't over." But Lila held her ground, Julian's hand brushing hers in silent support. The boardroom doors closed, and for the first time, victory felt real. With Serafina's plot exposed, Blackwood Tech buzzed with a new energy. The merger was scrapped, and Julian's leadership was stronger than ever. Lila, however, felt a strange emptiness. Her contract, the original one tied to the car crash, had been voided weeks ago, and the new one was set to expire. She stood in her small office, packing her things, her heart heavy. She'd saved Julian, but what now? Julian appeared in the doorway, his suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up. "Going somewhere?" She smiled faintly, taping a box shut. "Contract's done. You don't need an assistant anymore, right? I'm going back to my art, my life." He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbing her hands. "Lila, you think I'd let you walk away? You're not just an assistant. You never were. I need you here. With me." Her breath caught. "As what, Julian? Your employee? Your friend?" He pulled her close, his voice fierce. "As everything. Partner, confidant, the woman who makes this cold empire feel like home. Say, not because of a contract, but because I can't imagine this place without you." Tears pricked her eyes. "You mean that?" He nodded, his forehead against hers. "I've got a new offer. No paperwork, no terms. Just us." She laughed through her tears, nodding. "Deal." As they stood there, the city skyline glittering beyond, Lila felt the weight of the past lift. The crash, the conspiracy, it had all led to this moment, where her heart found its place. The crash site was unrecognizable now, transformed into a community garden bursting with wildflowers, a project Julian had quietly funded in Lila's honor. They stood there under a drizzle, umbrellas forgotten, as the city hummed around them. Lila's heart raced. She'd come here to clear her head, not expecting Julian to follow. "Why here?" she asked, brushing wet curls from her face. He smiled, rain dripping from his hair. "This is where it started. You crashed into my car, my life. I thought it was a disaster, but it was fate." She laughed, shivering. "Fate. You sound like a poet, not a CEO." He stepped closer, the rain blurring the world around them. "You changed me, Lila. I was cold, empty, building walls to keep everyone out. Then you came along, with your paint-splattered jeans and fearless heart. I love you." Her breath stopped. The words hung between them, raw and real. "Julian, Don't say anything yet," he interrupted, his voice soft but urgent. "Just know I've never said that to anyone. Not like this." She reached for him, pulling him into a kiss that tasted of rain and promise. It was slow, deliberate, a vow sealed in the storm. When they parted, she whispered, "I love you too." As they stood there, soaked and smiling, the garden bloomed around them, a testament to chaos turning into beauty. The community garden where Lila's bike had once crashed into Julian's Lamborghini was now a riot of color, wildflowers swaying under a late summer sunset. Lila stood at its heart, her paint-splattered sneakers sinking into the soft earth, her heart pounding as Julian led her to a secluded corner. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, casting a golden glow over a small wooden bench engraved with their initials, a detail she hadn't noticed until now. "Lila," Julian began, his voice low but steady, "this place changed everything. That crash wasn't just an accident, it was the start of us." She smiled, her auburn curls catching the light. "You've been saying that a lot lately. Getting sentimental, Blackwood." He chuckled, but his eyes were serious, gleaming with something deeper. "Maybe. Or maybe I've just realized what matters." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Lila's breath caught as he dropped to one knee, the world narrowing to just them. "Lila Evergreen," he said, opening the box to reveal a ring, a simple band with a single emerald, vibrant as her spirit. "You're my chaos, my home, my everything. Marry me. Not because of a deal or a crash, but because I want to build a life with you." Tears blurred her vision, but she laughed, pulling him up. "You think I'd let you get away after all this?" "Yes, Julian. Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and they kissed, the garden erupting into soft applause. Lila turned, startled, to see a small crowd, friends, colleagues, even the gardener who'd helped transform the site, cheering quietly. Julian had planned it all, turning their chaotic beginning into a perfect moment. As they walked hand in hand through the flowers, Lila whispered, "This is where it started, huh?" Julian squeezed her hand. "And where it'll never end." The wedding was nothing like the tabloids expected. No ostentatious ballroom or celebrity guest list, just a small ceremony in the garden, under an arch of roses and fairy lights. Lila wore a flowing dress she designed herself, embroidered with tiny wildflowers, while Julian traded his usual suits for a tailored jacket and jeans, a nod to her artistic soul. Their vows were raw, unscripted, and achingly honest. "I promise to crash into your life every day," Lila said, her voice trembling with laughter and tears, "and to love you through every mess." Julian's eyes shone. "I promise to be your home, Lila, and to never let you face the chaos alone." The reception was a blur of music, homemade food, and dancing under the stars. Lila's paintings lined the garden, each one a chapter of their story: the crash, the gala, the rain-soaked confession. The media, once hungry for scandal, now spun their tale as a modern romance, dubbing them the Billionaire and the Artist. Later, as they swayed to a slow song, Julian whispered, "This isn't a fairy tale, is it?" Lila grinned, resting her head against his chest. "No. It's better. It's ours." Her art career soared, with galleries clamoring for her work, while Julian's company thrived, its new focus on sustainable tech inspired by Lila's passion for the environment. Together, they were unstoppable, their love a quiet rebellion against the world's cynicism. Lila's first solo exhibition was a triumph, held in a chic Soho gallery that buzzed with critics, collectors, and curious onlookers. The walls glowed with her paintings, each a vivid snapshot of her journey with Julian. The crash site, reimagined as a collision of colors. The penthouse, its stark lines softened by her warmth. The gala, a swirl of emerald and crimson. The garden proposal, a canvas of hope and light. At the center hung her masterpiece, a portrait of Julian, his usually guarded face softened into a rare, genuine smile. Titled "The Heart Behind the Empire," it was her gift to him, a secret she'd kept until tonight. As Julian stood before it, his breath caught, his hand finding hers. "You see me like no one else does," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "How did I get so lucky?" She squeezed his hand. "I'm the lucky one. You gave me a canvas bigger than I ever dreamed." The crowd whispered, moved by the raw intimacy of her work. A critic approached, her notepad brimming with notes. "Miss Evergreen, your art, it's like a love letter to life. What inspires you?" Lila glanced at Julian, her smile radiant. "Love. Chaos. The moment when everything falls apart and somehow comes together." The painting sold for a record-breaking sum, but Lila donated the proceeds to the community garden, ensuring its legacy. As they left the gallery, Julian pulled her close. You're not just an artist, Lila. You're a revolution. Their new home was a masterpiece of compromise. A Brooklyn brownstone with high ceilings for Lila's studio and sleek, minimalist lines for Julian's taste. The walls were a gallery of her art, interspersed with tech prototypes and books, a blend of their worlds. Lila loved the skylight above her easel, where she painted late into the night, while Julian cherished the quiet study where he could think without the weight of an empire. One evening, as they cooked dinner, Lila chopping vegetables, Julian attempting, and failing, to make pasta, they bickered playfully. "You're hopeless," she teased, rescuing the pot from boiling over. "How do you run a company but not know how to stir?" He grinned, stealing a carrot slice. "I'm better at acquisitions than al dente. Besides, I married you for your cooking." She swatted him with a dish towel. "Liar! You married me for my chaos." He pulled her into his arms, kissing her forehead. "True. And I'd do it again." The house became their sanctuary, filled with laughter, late-night talks, and the occasional paint smear on the furniture. Lila's latest project, a mural for the living room, depicted their journey, from the crash to the garden, a vibrant tapestry of love. Julian, usually reserved, hung every sketch she gave him, proud of the life they were building. As they sat on their rooftop, watching the city skyline, Lila said, "This feels like a dream." Julian laced his fingers with hers. "It's real. And it's ours." Years later, Lila and Julian stood in front of their brownstone, now a bustling home filled with the laughter of their toddler, Elena, named after Julian's mother. The garden out front bloomed wildly, a nod to their beginning, while inside, Lila's studio overflowed with canvases, and Julian's office hummed with new ventures. Their life was a canvas of love, painted with bold strokes of chaos and care. Elena ran to them, clutching a daisy, her curls as wild as Lila's. "For you, Mama," she chirped, and Lila scooped her up, kissing her cheeks. Julian watched, his smile soft. "She's got your fire. And your stubbornness," Lila shot back, laughing. They hosted a small gathering that evening. Friends, family, and the gardener who'd become a dear friend. The community garden had grown, now a city-wide initiative, and Lila's art was its heart, inspiring others to create. Julian's company, too, had evolved, funding projects that blended tech with humanity, a legacy they built together. As the guests left, Lila and Julian stood on their stoop, Elena asleep in his arms. The city sparkled beyond, but their world was here, in this home they'd made. "We built our own castle," Lila said, leaning into him. He kissed her temple. "And it's stronger than any empire." Their story wasn't a fairy tale, it was raw, messy, and real. From a crash to a family, they'd forged a love that defied the odds, proving that even the wildest beginnings could lead to a beautiful forever. The end.